I think that, Howard, people ask me, like, what do you think is going on and what is the tension here? What's at stake? And there are many things, and I can be much more articulate than what I'm going to say. But ultimately, I do believe that this is an election that is about strength versus weakness,
Yeah.
and weakness as projected by someone who puts himself in front of the American people and does not have the strength to stand in defense of their needs, their dreams, their desires, um, the work that must happen to make sure that we are a secure nation, that we are nurturing and protecting our alliances around the world, that we are supporting America's military, that we are fighting to bring the cost of living down for working families, that we are building businesses, building growth.
Did you?
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Just when you thought that Kamala Harris could not be more delusional, she ups the delusion to a whole nother level, okay? Because she claimed in her Howard Stern interview with, a person that's also delusional as well, too, very Trump deranged. She says this election is about strength versus weakness, okay? And she is basically saying that Trump is weak, although Trump almost got his brains blown out. I mean, the guy was almost assassinated twice, okay? And he stood up and said, fight, 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 okay? After a failed assassination attempt with blood running down his face. I think that is the definition of strength. That is what Trump projected. And up until now, Kamala Harris, as a presidential candidate, has projected weakness because she has been avoiding the press like the plague. But now, because she's basically losing, she is doing her rounds on the media, doing a bunch of softball interviews in which she is failing to be able to answer basic questions. Like, for example, what differentiates you from Joe Biden? What are you going to do differently than Joe Biden since you claim to be the candidate of change? Now, yesterday we talked about her getting asked this question on The View, and she completely, totally face planted, right? In the sense that she said that she wouldn't change anything that Joe Biden did and that she was responsible for the failures of the Biden administration. Now, she was confronted with this question once again on Stephen Colbert's show, and she failed to give an answer. She went full-blown word salad. Take a look.
Polling shows that a lot of people, especially independent voters, really want this to be a change election, and that they tend to break for you in terms of thinking about change. You are a member of the president's administration. Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I noticed.
And so that would be one change in terms of. But also, I think it's important to say with, 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump. And so when we think about the significance of what this next generation of leadership looks like, were I to be elected president, it is about, frankly, I love the American people, and I believe in our country. I love that it is our character and nature to be an ambitious people. We have aspirations, we have dreams, we have incredible work ethic, and I just believe that we can create and build upon the success we've achieved in a way that we continue to grow opportunity and in that way grow the strength of our nation.
Yeah, so once again, you're saying Kamala Harris completely strike out when it comes to this question of what separates you from Joe Biden, right? What makes you different? What are you going to change? She can't give an answer outside of the fact that she's not Joe Biden and she's not Trump. But yet she admitted on The View that while she's not Joe Biden, she would not have changed anything that Joe Biden did. She would have done the exact same things that he did, okay, which includes destroy the economy, open up the border, basically drag us into World War III, okay, when it comes to foreign policy, things like that. And that she was actually a part of the Biden administration and had significant roles in crafting policy and the direction of the Biden administration, right? So she is responsible for the current state of the country. Okay, so everybody knows that this answer here is probably the worst answer that you can give when you're talking about trying to be the change candidate in an election where people want change, right? And you're basically telling everybody, no, 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 there will be no change. I am going to be Joe Biden 2.0. Okay, I was responsible for everything Joe Biden did, even though the American people are not happy with the Biden administration and his policies. It seems as if she's too stupid to realize that this is probably not a good position to take. But then again, Democrats believe that their base of voters, liberals, are stupid. So she probably thinks that it doesn't matter what she says, right? Again, to her appeal, okay, is not being Biden, okay, aka not being too old, and not being Trump, right? That's the only thing she has. I'm actually surprised she has not come out and said that, well, I have a vagina and I'm allegedly black, right? I'm surprised she hasn't pulled a race in the gender card yet. Who knows? Maybe that's coming if they get desperate enough. Regardless, these answers leave a whole lot to be desired, and she's being roasted up on basically all platforms over the fact that she continues to fail to separate herself from Joe Biden.
She is running on the slogan of a new way forward. And she said today, we're going to stay on the same path, which is, I think everyone would admit, not a popular path. I mean, Biden has put some handcuffs on her. I mean, he has gone out last week and said, she helped me pass every law. She was part of every decision. I mean, he's making it difficult for her to get any separation. And then she has also, in the last few days, said Biden is totally with it, totally vouched for his mental acuity, and today says, yeah, I can't really think of anything that I would have done differently. This must be very confusing for American voters who must be thinking, then why are you running? Why isn't he running? If he's up to it and you wouldn't change anything, then why is Joe Biden not in this race right now? I thought, but who goes on The View and gets outsmarted, by the way? I mean, this was a total disaster for her today. I think even some of the friendly, non-traditional interviews have not turned out that well, but her contact with the mainstream media, I mean, the 60 Minutes interview, you know, on issue after issue, I think did not really help her campaign. The immigration answers did not help her campaign, you know, answering the question 3 times about whether they made the right decisions on the immigration changes that let the flood of people into the country. So I think the reason they're shying away from it is because often her rhetoric doesn't survive contact with the mainstream media.
Yeah, and I think also part of the reason why Kamala Harris is failing to articulate herself is not just her inability to do so, which she clearly doesn't, but also it's because she's stuck between a rock and a hard place. Joe Biden is still pissed off about the Democrats staging a coup against him. He really believes that he's the only person that can beat Trump, right? So if Kamala Harris loses, it's kind of a I told you so moment for Joe Biden, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if behind closed doors, him and Jill are low-key rooting against Kamala Harris. And if Kamala Harris comes out here and starts to speak negatively about the Biden administration, aka if Kamala Harris throws Biden under the bus and says, well, I didn't have anything to do with the disasters of the administration, one, she would be admitting that she doesn't have anything to do with it. And two, again, she would be saying negative things about Joe Biden. Okay, and that could probably prompt Joe Biden to come out publicly and to start to throw Kamala Harris under the bus, which a lot of people believe that he's already doing because he continues to say things like, for example, Kamala Harris was a part of his failing administration, had a significant role in domestic and foreign policy. He said this on The View. And then he came out yesterday in response to Kamala Harris's lies about Ron DeSantis not answering her phone calls, her attempts to politicize Hurricane Milton. He came out in support, in defense of Ron DeSantis, completely throwing Kamala under the bus. Take a look.
The governor of Florida has been cooperative. He said he's gotten all that he needs. I talked to him again yesterday. And I said, no, you're doing a great job. It's all being done well. We thank you for it. And I literally gave my personal phone number to call. So I don't know. There was a rough start in some places, but every governor from Florida to North Carolina has been fully cooperative and supportive and acknowledged what this team is doing. And they're doing an incredible job. But we got a lot more to do.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that. Interesting response there from Joe Biden. He seems to be undermining Kamala's claims that Ron DeSantis is politicizing the hurricane. And this is interesting because this is just one of many things that Joe Biden has done over the past month or so that seems to indicate that Joe Biden could be actively working against Kamala, right? Low key. Okay, like for example, him wearing that Trump hat at the 9/11 event with Kamala Harris in the room. This guy put on a Trump hat and it went viral, okay? And it pissed off a whole bunch of people on the left. They're like, what the hell is Joe Biden doing? Well, Joe Biden is sending a message that, hey, he's still upset, right? He's still pissed off and that he low-key could be rooting for Trump. Wouldn't be surprised if Joe Biden votes for Trump. I'm just saying. I think Joe 20 years ago would have been a Trump supporter. I really do. I think Joe at his core is the same guy he was 20 years ago. I just think that Joe has to be woke. He has to be progressive because his handlers told him that he has to be woke and progressive, right? And we cannot forget recently how Joe Biden did counter programming against Kamala Harris, giving a speech in Michigan, okay? Kamala Harris was giving a speech, and all of a sudden, Joe Biden decides to have a surprise press conference in which he basically claims that he's back in the race.
Craig, have you made a decision on long-range weapons?
Do you want to reconsider dropping out of the race?
I'm back in.
What made you want to come here today?
Okay, and he's doing this at the same time that Kamala is speaking, taking away attention from Kamala Harris. And even the mainstream liberal media, they were asking questions about why would Joe do this, right? Why would you counter program your vice president who's running for president, right? Why would you take away media from her, right? So again, if Kamala Harris comes out here and really starts to throw Joe Biden under the bus and basically says that, hey, his administration, everything that happened was on him, I don't have anything to do with it, this is what I would have done differently, then that could risk Joe Biden going even more rogue, right? Going more dark MAGA publicly against Kamala Harris, which is the last thing that Democrats want, is for Joe Biden to come out here and to really start throwing Kamala Harris under the bus. But he seems to be doing so in ways that are subtle, but not so subtle that people aren't noticing the sabotage coming from his administration against Kamala Harris. Now, again, with that being said, the reason why you're seeing Kamala Harris do these interviews is because she knows that they're losing, right? And I did this video yesterday. Behind closed doors, Democrats are panicking, okay? Because internally, their internal polls are showing that Kamala Harris is not doing well, particularly in the Midwestern states, the Rust Belt states that Kamala Harris desperately needs because she's losing men.
We're talking about Harris a lot on this program for a couple reasons. Okay, we know what Trump is. We don't need to spend every episode talking about January 6th. We'll talk about it if people want to bring it up. What's happening now with Kamala Harris is this is an experiment. Can you win a short campaign with an untested candidate? And what I'm telling you is happening in private polling is she's got a problem now. Okay, it's not cheering for Trump. It's not predicting Trump will win. She's got a problem. Please bring up the New York Times poll. So, new New York Times poll shows her up 3 nationally. We all know that 3 is like the bubble point, right? If she's up 3, she's got a chance to win the Electoral College, but they'd rather be at 4, and they don't want to be at 2. So 3 is right at the bubble. I'm not saying this Times poll is right. It's in line with other national polls. Now, bring up 102. Wall Street Journal has a story about Democrats really worried about the 3 Rust Belt states. We all know from our contacts in both campaigns that Pennsylvania is tough for her right now. And without Pennsylvania, there are paths, but there aren't many. There's no path without Wisconsin. So you see here, Tammy Baldwin's Senate campaign poll shows Harris down 3 in Wisconsin. We all said yesterday, Wisconsin and Michigan are looking worse for Harris than before. Baldwin has her down 3, not Baldwin has Harris down 3. Why is the Baldwin campaign sharing its polling with the Wall Street Journal? Good question. Sean, why would a campaign share their polling negative for their candidate? Because they want more visits? Is that the reason?
I mean, I think part of this is like a Hillary Clinton redux, which is that you want to make sure people understand what's going on. Plus, you're tied to it. Tammy Baldwin can't win if Kamala Harris loses.
She can. Yeah, she can. She can. I think.
Okay. Well,
in a close race, she can.
Okay, maybe it's not a 5,000 vote squeaker, but I think part of this is to make sure that they understand this. But I will say this: and off topic, Alyssa Slotkin said the same thing last week in Michigan. Like, this is what we were
Correct.
talking about the other day. This is
Correct.
again,
Correct.
they are
Correct.
sending.
I think that's the challenge for Democrats is the trend lines, right? I mean, if you just go back now for the last 3 to 4 weeks in Michigan and in Wisconsin, not that Harris was up, 7 and it went down to 4, down to 1. It's, it's gone from 3 to 2 to 1 to tied. And at the same time, those Senate candidates, Casey, Slotkin, and Baldwin, are seeing the same trend line.
All much closer. All much
Right.
closer.
By the way,
so
so you do it to sound the alarm bell.
Complaining that we're talking about problems in the Harris campaign. You're welcome to put your head in the sand about it. If you want to go watch MSNBC primetime and hear how great things are going for the Harris campaign, you're welcome to do that. But if you want to understand what's actually happening, we're here to tell you. I just saw some new private polling today that's very robust private polling. She's in a lot of trouble. Here's how I framed it this morning in my newsletter. The conversation I'm having with Trump people and Democrats with data are extremely bullish on Trump's chances in the last 48 hours. Extremely bullish. You think of the 7 battleground states. Which ones is Harris in danger of losing? I would say Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, North Carolina, and Georgia. I'm not saying she'll lose all 6, but she's in danger. The only one that the Democrats say she's not in danger of losing is the one I never say the name of because I can't pronounce it, but it's where Las Vegas is, right? You guys agree with me? She could lose any of those 6, right? I mean, she could lose all 7, but Democrats will tell you they're worried about those 6. They're less worried about the 7th.
Yeah.
I don't know any Trump person who says they're worried about losing any of the 7. They don't know that they don't necessarily think they're the favorite in Michigan and Wisconsin, but they're not worried about losing them.
Right.
There's not, you don't hear from them, oh my goodness. What you hear is we're moving up. What the 3 of us are hearing, we're moving up in those 2. We're gonna win the 3 Sunbelt states, and we're stronger in Pennsylvania than she is. That to me, if the whole thing's about the Electoral College, you take any of the Rust Belt states away from her, it's very difficult for her to win. Very difficult. It's not mathematically impossible, but it probably won't happen if she loses any of them.
Yeah, so like I've been telling you guys, the momentum is on Trump's side, okay? And again, that's not to get cocky, okay? That's not to be overly confident. I'm just saying that, hey, we have to have faith in the process and we have to sprint through the finish line, right? I mean, that's essentially the whole point of me putting out these videos is to let you guys know there's light at the end of the tunnel. Okay, and don't believe the mainstream liberal media that, oh, Kamala is so great and that she's doing so amazing and everybody loves her. No, I have not seen any Kamala supporters on the street, right? It's hard to find them, okay? Now, again, who knows? There could be those hidden Kamala Harris supporters out there. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But regardless, what we're seeing here is that Kamala's campaign is tanking. Not only is she tanking her own personal campaign, but also Democrats down ballot, they're starting to struggle because of Kamala Harris, right? These interviews that she's doing, again, it's starting to backfire on her because she's not answering questions, okay? And she's looking worse and worse and worse in these interviews. And I think it's at the point now where she's going to start to hurt herself even more going into the election. And maybe, just maybe, and I'm hoping to see the closer that we get to the election, that Trump just breaks out and he just outright ends up landsliding Kamala Harris. But as of right now, Kamala is stuck between a rock and a hard place, okay? What she should be doing is that she should be differentiating herself from Biden and coming out here and saying the things that she would have done differently than Joe Biden. But she can't do that because she's risking Joe Biden coming out and tanking her whole campaign by coming out against her if she does that, right? Because Joe Biden is still bitter. So, again, she's just really, really, really in a tough situation because she doesn't have the talent to do what she's trying to do as a politician. And clearly you can see that in these interviews. And I think the more of these interviews that she does, I think the worse it's going to get. You can clearly see why they were avoiding doing this at the beginning of her campaign. But now that she's losing, okay, she's losing momentum, they have to do it. And again, you're saying why they didn't really want to do it in the first place. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.